first poem is from Philippa Ramsden. So, Philippa, if you would like to read Butterfly Whisper.
Lovely. Thank you very much. And it's lovely to be part of Stravaig. I was very warmed to see that the themes of this edition very much chime with a lot of my kind of thoughts and ideas. And the background to Butterfly Whisper, I've been obviously involved in a number of Japanese inspired sort of workshops and sessions, and the idea of the interrelationship and the cause of effect of seemingly very tiny actions can have massive impacts or effects across the world. Or is there an effect? Is there a relationship? This poem is inspired by the idea of the butterfly effect, and it was written just following the earthquake in Myanmar, which took place at the end of March. And while I was very aware of the devastation that was there, I lived in Myanmar for a number of years, so that very much impacted on me. I was also conscious that in Scotland, the spring blossoms were awaking in the trees in front of me. The skies were blue, and there was an inordinate number of butterflies. Of bumblebees, and that's where this poem was inspired from. Butterfly Whisper. Plum blossom wakes in a Scottish garden. A bumblebee sneezes. The earth cracks open in Mandalay. A promise of fruit and spring ushers in groans and shrieks from the earth. Rubble and dust heap on the ground as the tailor's shop crumbles and screams. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philippa. We can show our appreciation either with some of the little symbols that are available, or yeah, because if there's an outbreak of clapping, it always sounds kind of peculiar on Zoom. So yeah, thank you very much, Philippa.
Thank you.
And Nori, I think you're going to read the next contribution, which is from Rebecca Clifford. You're on mute, Nori.
Yes, Rebecca can't be with us tonight, but she wrote to the editors, and she had a very nice story from her father, which was the background to this poem. Yeah, I think I found it now. I'll just read what she said in her email. In 1956, my father, Paul Clifford, undertook fieldwork research for his PhD, University of London, on the strength of a maintenance grant from the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research. The area he studied was around Loch Loochart, Rossshire. The history, stratigraphy, petrography, the Lewisian, amphibolites, the red sandstone faults, the geomorphology. He told a story of being approached by an elderly gentleman late one afternoon as he was coming back over the terrain. The man asked his purpose and what he hoped to achieve with all his activity. Apparently, my father had been a subject of local conversation for some time. Satisfied that my father was harmless, the gent asked if he'd care to come up to his cottage for a wee dram. My father gladly accepted, and they began the walk back to the gentleman's cottage. Stopping part way up the path, he touched my father on the arm and whispered conspiratorially, "You ken it didn't have the label," and winked. It's one of my father's clearest and fondest memories of Scotland, even in his golden years. I am thrilled that Stravaig is taking my work. Like a Rock was written for my father, and every doorstop, every paperweight in our home was indeed a rock of some geologic significance. With gratitude, Rebecca Clifford. So I thought that was well worth reading, that story from Rebecca at the background to this poem. Like a rock, sedimentary, igneous, metamorphic, consolidated deposits, hard and solid, molded by pressure or heat or both. A galactic rock of ages and eons where we blast, dig, excavate, consolidated deposits, hard and solid. Then soil, spoil, wreck, ruin, air, water, land, Gaia Earth, where we blast, dig, excavate, and make our graves, solemn as ash or blood. Assuming what we wish from air, water, land, Gaia Earth, we're unable to stop, unable to change. We could be clay, quartz, halite, or blood, assuming what we wish from whatever's left of Earth, be it sedimentary, igneous, metamorphic. We could be clay, quartz, halite, molded by pressure or heat, or both.
Thank you, Nori. Thanks, and thanks to Rebecca for the poem. I think Pat would appreciate that one. And yes, moving
Certainly
on.
do.
Thanks, thanks, Pat. Didn't realise you were there. Moving on now to David Beattie. As we heard, you're in Kenya. Is that right?
Yes, and that's where the essay begins, explaining. Well, I'm not from here. I landed up here in 1996, which is I've been here nearly 30 years, I suppose.
Yeah. So, if you'd like to give us a wee, just a wee overview of the essay, you know, what it's pointed towards, and
yeah, right. So, we were asked basically to look at the future of geopoetics, and I was a bit hesitant about that because predicting futures can be risky. But and the other thing was the connection with Eastern thought. So I start out saying it's rather a source of wonder to me that I actually ended up living here in Lamu, because I was in Nairobi for many, many years on the East Coast, because I'm looking across the Indian Ocean, which 2,500 miles away lies Sri Lanka, southern Sri Lanka, and the little Buddhist hermitage island that I did a long retreat on in 1980 with 3 Buddhist monks, which was the central part of my book published a couple of years ago called The Island, a Mirror for the Soul. So I try to link these 2 geographical terrains in the essay to some extent. I start out with sort of exploring my own sense of alarm at what's going on with the AI world and these transhumanist tech billionaires and all this kind of stuff, which seems to be a kind of techno-Gnosticism. So looking at geopoetics and the transformation that's possible through geopoetics and the writing of poetry and connecting with the earth as a kind of counterpoint to that, and to create intercultural solidarity. So it's good that we link Lamu now with Luing in another archipelago. So there's that aspect. Then I briefly talk about my starting to write poetry again when I landed up and ended up living here for much longer than I ever imagined, by going off into these huge landscapes that Africa offers and having this really sense of deep time. And one of the experiences was meeting by chance, really, a very famous, or she's pretty famous, stone tool archaeologist, a French woman called Hélène Roche, who was actually asked up to Turkana by Leakey, the famous Leakey family, when they discovered this skeleton Turkana boy in 1984, I think it was, which was almost an entire skeleton, 1.5 million years old. They asked her to do a reading of the whole area to contextualize it. And she'd never ever been to that part of the world. And she was so impressed with how you could find these stone tools in a relatively small area very easily because of that landscape. that she ended up staying there, and she still, I believe she still goes there, but she invited me to her camp. And I never had really a huge interest in stone tools, but I mean, the 3 days I spent with her completely blew my mind. She would explain this flake blade technology and the minute differences of the technology that took like 1 million years to evolve to make a slightly better blade. I mean, you know, we do technology changes in nanoseconds now, so that completely threw me. And then I linked that with my walking, my long walks in landscapes, and this a sort of way of connecting with the landscape when a poem arises, this kind of reciprocal interaction between the mind and the world, which I think is very much part of the Zen tradition, very much part of the Japanese tradition. This reciprocity between mind and world is where reality kind of self-realizes itself through you, so that you're you kind of drop your normal everyday self, and the mind and the world kind of go through a kind of mirroring process, which is the source of that creativity. And so I go into that a bit. There's a word that the Japanese have, I think it's called koto, which means mind, and it can also mean matter, and it can mean word. And that word has a very special meaning in this context of how the mind kind of enters the world and the world enters your mind, and there's this reciprocity between the two, and that's reality. So that's sort of where the essay goes, but it's part one, because part two I will go more into where some of this comes from for me, this Kyoto school philosopher Keiji Nishitani, who's very, very interesting, and I'm going to explore him a bit more. So it's rather like looking at archaeology and geology as a natural history of the mind. Nishitani kind of looked at philosophy as a natural history of the earth. And Nishitani kind of looked at philosophy as a natural history of the mind, which is also how Whitehead and Friedrich Schelling looked at it, which is bringing everything back down to earth, away from this abstract conceptual realm that we've been kind of stuck in. So that's the gist of it.
Thanks, Steve. And of course, what we now call physics used to be known as natural philosophy at one time.
Right.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I really look forward to reading that and part two as well in due course. That sounds fascinating.
Norman wanted me to say something about we've set up a geopoetic center here. Do you want me to touch on that?
Yeah, just give us a
Well, I mean, it's very early days yet, but we did, we put the word out, and we're trying to get people into events that we're creating. At the moment, we've got some films we can show that are interesting. That brings people in. And then after the film, we create a conversation space around the topic of the film, which then can often go in lots of other directions, so that we can sort of introduce this idea of geopoetics and the whole thing, and see if we can get some people to come in and see this as something they could engage with, at sort of regenerating, if need be, their own local culture. And poetry's got a very important place in Swahili culture here. They do have their own kinds of poetry, and they have poetry competitions and things. It doesn't necessarily fit easily into the geopoetic kind of concept, but we'll have to see where that conversation goes. It could be interesting, but it could be lots of other creative events around ecology. There's a lot of activity like that around here, with mangroves being regenerated and marine conservation issues and all kinds of stuff that relates to this kind of thing. So it's early days yet, but I guess I'll keep you posted as things develop.
Can I just come in on one brief point there, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to say that I think the approach of showing a film and then having a discussion or Q&A and then discussion is a very, very good one. We did that successfully with our new film, Expressing the Earth, at the Sea Change Film Festival on the Isle of Tiree here in Argyll.
Right.
And it really, we recruited 9 new members. People, people paid and joined the Scottish Centre for Geopoetics, and another 10 put their names down to go on the mailing list to get the Geopoetics news. So I think this is a very good way forward for you. Obviously, you want to follow it up with, this is the way we built up Geopoetics in Scotland. We just put a sheet round and asked people to put down their email addresses, and they kept in touch, and it developed from there. So
that's great. Well, we'd love to have that film too at some point to show here.
Sure. Well, we'll get it one day, sometime next year.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, David, once again. So we're going to move on now to poetry again, and it's a poem from Robin Leaper. If Robin is here.
Good evening. Just to say thanks very much for publishing this poem in Stravaig to the editors, and thanks for giving me the chance to read it here this evening. It's one of a handful of poems that I've written about the Scottish Wildlife Trust's reserve at Southwark in Galloway, which is part of a kind of more of an armful of a couple of dozen poems I've written about the Celtic trees, so-called Celtic trees. A word about Southwark is it's quite a small strip of woodland on cliffs, and it's associated Merse on the Solway coast. I would like to be able to say this poem is a Zen poem, but I wouldn't be so presumptuous. It's called The Habit of Hazel. The crackle of leaf litter underfoot, the brittle silence of a blue November gloam, a chill in the reception from your adopted woodland. Yours? Your habit to come here, to intrude. The trees have no use for you who is used to meddling, to making use of everything. The hazel occupies its place of quiet wilderness here in the mid-story, tells its rambling tale, brings the story to an end in its own good time, has no hungering after immortality. It's only you who wants to set things right, straighten the edge of everything, make it last. Fast-rooted, many-stemmed, the hazel's habit is to tangle, grow awry, seeking the elusive light. Learn the lesson of its ways, go otherwise, leave things be. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Very nicely read as well, and almost kind of picking up on that idea of bringing the story to an end in its own good time. So thank you for that. And as Carol said, Stravaig is not just about poetry and prose. It's also like to include artwork, and we've had contributions from Caroline Schofield, and I'm going to invite Caroline just to talk a wee bit about her contribution. Caroline.
Hello.
Let me know when you want me to move the images on.
Oh, is there more than one image?
Yes.
It's a surprise to me. I wasn't sure what Nori was putting in. So I will say something about each image, and then you can move it on. So this image was actually from an art and animism course I did in the Lake District, and actually two people who I met there I think they're both still on the Zoom tonight, Sarah and Alice, and we'll all be coming up to stay at the centre in December, so we're excited about that. So this image was yeah, at Loweswater in the Lake District, and what you can see moving there is some pigment, some ochre pigment that I collected from Florence Mine, a bit further down in the Lake District. So yeah, one of the things that I'm interested in is working with pigment, and also this particular week was around land art, so it was making I guess temporary temporary kind of interventions really, and taking photographs of them rather than creating permanent sculpture or visual image. And the nice thing about using natural pigment, of course, is it's just gone, and because it's natural ochre, it doesn't it's not toxic, it doesn't damage anything. So that was what I love about land art. It's really just a moment in time, really, and capturing that. So that's where that image is from. If you want to move up. So wow, yeah, this one was actually it's a place that I visit very often in North Wales. And I went, this was last April actually, I went there, and there'd been a big gorse burn there, which I know they're controversial, so I don't really get so much into you know, opinions on whether or not that should happen. But after being initially quite sort of shocked because this place that I love was this huge fire there, I became quite interested in it, really, like interested in what it looked like and the patterns and the shapes there. And I actually collected, I still have some burnt gorse from there that I've collected and I'm making into pigment, and I will make I'll make some paint from that, and that will become a painting. And one of my Welsh speaking friends, and I know there's somebody on here tonight who speaks Welsh. I don't want to put them on the spot, but she said that one of the words for gorseburn was creithio, which also means to scar, or like the scar healing after a scar, which I thought was really beautiful actually. So I'm still, that's kind of still working on me in a way. So a lot of the artwork I make is about visiting the same place over and over again, and being in relationship with it and having these experiences. So if you want to move along, and I'll see what comes. Oh, that's it. So we've got two in. Yeah. So yeah, that's I'm not sure that I need to say anything else. So yeah, I guess I do painting as well, but often a lot of my work is about yeah, relationship with place and revisiting and going back over and over again to the same place, and really observing and seeing what happens there.
Lovely, thank you, Caroline. It's always good to get the artists a wee bit of background on what we see. So more poetry, and I'm going to invite Mark Gallagher from all the way from Denmark to read his contribution. Here we are. So, Mark.
Terrific. I hope you all can hear me. Suppose the background to the poem is what my interest is. One of the hobbies I have is I do a lot of running. I've been running since I was a young boy, and in my early 20s, I was lucky enough to have some good friends down in Northern England, and I ran a lot in the Lake District, and used to do quite a bit of fell running, and then I did a bit of running in Scotland and a bit of running over here in Denmark. And of recent years, some poems have begun to bubble up that are all about running and landscape. So I'm very pleased to have this poem that has resonated with the editors, and that's about it. So I'll just give you the poem, and it's called Glide. Into the trees' deep shade you glide, too carefree yet for knuckled roots and traps, the mud slaked pools splitting apart in insect dancing sunlight. birdsong returning like a rumour of hope, the forest still dripping bright rain and rivulets, staining green leaves and moss-laced bark with quivering silver. You'd have to be blind to miss the cedar and the silver birch leaning in, the dizzy aroma of wild garlic, the wet loam and pungent grass, vast canopy of green-laced silence. You'd have to be senseless not to sing in the heart. Each leap, each glide, down crumbling wet earth incline, the river dark as night, its brew of mountain water sliding over shoals of blunted, shining stone. Huge volumes stirring in deep muscular pools where the old gods slumber. And come out on the other side not a little sad, that pool of forest behind you, tugging at the mind. The trees, watchers on tall stilts, know you'll be back, in full weather in winter, glad for snow-smothered track, the way ahead, blindness you must wade through, and something hidden, tracking your laboured trespass.
Thanks very much. That really, it really does conjure up the sense of walking through the forest, and I love that trees, watchers on tall stilts, lovely, and the description of the burn as well. Really, very, very, very nice, very good. It's brew of mountain water. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and Martin Goldie, we're going to move on to you, if that's okay. Find your
self-set.
Snips the flower.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to have had two poems included in this magazine, and many, if anyone knows my poetry, many are influenced by landscape. And I'm going to read The Poet Sniffs a Flower, which is influenced basically from a seat by the Holy Loch Long, which I live on, and fortunately gives some good poetry for me. In the shore's wakening, time we easily waste, I sit among old black rock by a child's splash pool, alive with cockle shells and pink and green starfish. The stone moon is still there, high in a pale sky. I watch the tides trembling whisk to shore, brine kelp and coarse shingle wither and drown, the scent of moss and dewbark, hidden finches rumouring. A red trawler sails into haven, and beyond the chantering sea, and the threat of the coming storm, this changing world to consider. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Martin. Again, lots of movement in there, and that very closely observed movement of water and stone. Lovely. Thank you. We're going to take a wee look now at, I don't know, Glenda, if you want to say a wee bit about what we have here. We have some stills from the film, which I don't know how many folk have seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet, and I'm desperate to see it at some stage. But this is the advertising for it, the image that advertises it. And Glenda, are you anything that you want to say about these images? Is Glenda here?
I'm on mute there. I think I'm off now.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't hadn't really prepared anything, but yeah, these are just some images from the feature film, which we've recently completed. The first one that was up there is really for the poster, and it's got a few laurels that we've got into a few film festivals already. As Nori mentioned earlier, we've won a few awards as well. And so these are just a selection of pictures really from the film. There's a lot of obviously beautiful landscape in it, and we've got the work of Kenneth White feeding through the film. So that's some of the text there is the poems that we're using the audio from Ken reading, going through it. And yeah, so we're hoping to. We had a really successful launch in Tyree Festival, Sea of Change, in September. That was its premiere, and the director of that festival's been really encouraging, and she wants to try and arrange a tour, hopefully with us early next year around the Highlands and Islands. So we'll get some venues there. I'm looking at trying to arrange a screening in Edinburgh, hopefully early next year. So that everybody can finally get to see it, because it feels like a long time now, and I don't know how to share it without. So hopefully we'll keep everybody posted of any up and coming screenings. But like I say, hopefully there'll be more coming around Scotland and other film festivals coming up. We've got an Instagram page and a Facebook page. Both of them are Expressing the Earth, which is the title of the film. So if anybody wants to give us a follow on there, we'll keep you updated with screenings coming up, and also through the Geopoetics website as well. I'm sure there'll be more info in there once we have some. So we will get screenings soon, hopefully. But yeah, these are just, and the one there, it was me and Pat. We were down at Seeker Point, filming there, and Nori on Ling, and yeah. So that's again, it's in Ling, these ones here. The bottom one is a still of Kenneth White as an older man, reading a really beautiful poem towards the end of the film, which sort of encapsulates, I've scratched these words like runes on a rock to be my testament. Maybe no one will read them, and that is no matter. They stand, oh no, I can't remember. They stand, sorry, I can't remember the end of it, but yeah.
Great.
Yeah, but yeah, we will get some more screenings, and hopefully, I mean, in the future, it will be online at some point. But we want to try and get into film festivals and do sort of physical screenings first. I was 7 years old. I got lost in the woods. Sorry?
No, I think that was a stray comment from somewhere.
All right, he got lost in the woods. I was like,
yeah.
But yeah, so I'll keep you posted. I was trying to just contact some cinemas in Edinburgh to see if we could arrange a screening, because there's a lot of people want to see it, and so if we could do one Edinburgh or Glasgow as well, and then there'll be some in the Highlands and around the north. So we're just in the process of trying to get them all pinned down for next year, early next year, hopefully. So.
The next screening is actually the Ling premiere. Next Thursday in Toberonachie Hall, and we've already got people lined up coming to see it. So I'll do the Q&A afterwards, and so there's quite a bit of the film is set on Ling, and but the main thing is it's such a beautiful film, and when we were setting it, we were doing a trial run this week. George May, who's a musician and singer and songwriter, he said the little parts he saw at the beginning, it was a stunning film, he said, and he's encouraging everybody to come to it on Ling. So it's definitely having an effect wherever it gets shown. So we're looking forward to next Thursday to the Ling premiere.
Can I ask how long it took to make?
It's been 3 years really in the making. Wow. Yep. So it's been quite a big project, and quite a labour of love. And so when we started 3 years ago, that was before Kenneth White had actually passed away, and so we started filming, and then about 6 months into film, and he was in France, so we didn't actually get to interview him. So it's been quite a journey, and then we've since found lovely archive footage and archive recordings. So he he leads the story through his words, but it's really the experience of other artists, geologists, writers. It's about other people's experience of geopoetics, but with them sort of led by the words of Kenneth White, and beautiful cinematography around Scotland. It's all been filmed in Scotland.
Oh, looking forward to seeing it.
Yes. Yes, we're proud of it. Yeah, it was a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but I think it's been worth it. It's it's quite a polished film, and we've had really great feedback. Like I say, we've got great feedback in Tiree, and they want to do a tour, and we won Best Director at Stratford-upon-Avon, and it won Best Feature Film in New Renaissance. So yeah, it's good to get some nice feedback after spending so long and thinking, is it any good? It's, yeah.
Great. Well,
We will arrange some screening soon.
Congratulations to you for those various awards as well. So well done on that.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks. We're going to move on a couple more images now. This is from the Festival of Hope that the Scottish Centre for Geopoetics partnered with Galgale back in the summer on this festival, and Susan Bissell has taken some photographs, which you can see there. Norrie, do you want to say a wee bit about what Galgale is for people who might not know?
Yes, it came out of the environmental struggle over the M77 motorway, where there was a protest to try to stop the destruction of the woods in Pollock Park. It wasn't successful, but from that, the MacLeods, they kicked it off. And one of the things you see there, the boat that they've built, they built a whole number of boats, like Birlins, old style boats, and sailed them on the Clyde. And one of the things it's workers who have been unemployed in the Govan area, people who've had various social problems, have been involved at Galgale. And it was a most successful event. They were so welcoming, the folk. I should say, not the kind of welcome we got in Glasgow University, can I say, a year ago, but the Galgale people just loved having us there, and we loved meeting them. And you can see there at the bottom of the picture the huge trays of food that they made for us, and it was a lovely day, and a lot of good experiences came from it. And it's hopefully the Festival of Hope is the beginning of it. It's maybe an annual event. Helen Kyle, you can see in the picture there in the blue on the left-hand side. She's the founder of Scotland in Europe, and she's also been campaigning. She campaigned to save the Kinning Park a centre, which they're having a celebration of in a couple of weeks' time. So Helen is a real powerhouse when it comes to community and social, and she's very much supportive of geopoetics and the work that Kenneth White has done. So that's all I wanted to say, Dave, if that's some help.
Great, thanks very much.
I don't know if Susan, do you want to say a wee bit about your photos? I don't know if she's there, my daughter. Yeah. Are you muted or?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. So yeah, no, just to say it was such a wonderful day. I just went along to kind of help sell some books for you, and that was really, I thought, all my part would be. But as you say, it was so welcoming. Just in the top photo, there's just the picture of the front of the centre. It's such an unassuming looking place, considering what there is behind it. Just when you walk in, we've got this lovely meeting space with a stage and room for food and things, and then there's this working workshop where these magnificent kind of Viking boats are getting built, with all the tools and things all round about. And then you go through to another section, and there's a beautiful garden out the back with sculptures, and you know, fruit and veg, and all these beautiful flowers. So if you're able to get to this place, I would highly recommend it. It's just a wee spot of heaven in the middle of town, to be honest.
Could you pick it down to the garden, Dave? Could you move
Sorry?
down? Dave, could you move the photos down to see the garden?
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's the garden.
Yeah, so it's just that small part of it. There's all these beautiful walkways, which are all kind of handmade, and the kind of workshop spaces outside as well. Yeah, it's just an incredible place that not a lot of people know about, and really should. But yeah.
Great, thanks. And of course the festival generated quite a lot of work, and we're going to hear some excerpts from that now. So Evelyn Pye.
Yeah, it was a fantastic place and a lovely day. And Nori took us through the garden and talked us into writing haiku. And I would just read from the ones that I wrote at that time. Sacred fire in Galgale, sending smoke signals out to all of Govan. And that really makes me think of what Susan said when she said it was a surprising place. And it really is, because you're in the middle of an industrial estate and all of a sudden you're into this wonderful community place, and walk a little bit further and you're out into the gardens. The next one is about one of the plants. Not quite a thistle, seeming to invite touch, a teasel. There seem to be quite a few of the teasels around. Orange as sunrise, hot pepper spice for the tongue, nasturtiums. They really are delicious. If you haven't actually had a go at eating them, you should give it a try. Just explain something that's coming up, the companion planting. If you have cabbages or brassicas, it's a very good idea to plant nasturtiums close by as an alternative to using insecticide, because the bugs are attracted to the nasturtiums rather than the cabbages. Apples on dwarf trees, our hands reach out to pluck low-hanging fruit. The cabbage white flies past bright green brassicas, companion planting. And one of the nice things about the place was the feeling of community, that things were cooperative rather than competitive. And that's what I'm talking about in the last haiku. Daisies of all sizes, vying for supremacy, gone by late autumn. So I'd just like to thank you for the Festival of Hope, and particularly Nori for the workshop.
Thanks, Evelyn. Thanks for that wee glimpse into your response to the day. And we're going to carry on now with. Oh, that's a lovely picture of the garden there. Martin White. A haiku from Martin.
Unmute. So thanks for this very wee opportunity. I suppose it's inspired in a way by Matsui Basho and the view that non-standard line patterns in haikus are actually okay. And this is about just another pretty ordinary day in East Lothian, in one of the huge fields that are prevalent there. The dry twig. 3 deer stare hard. Bobbing of white. Thank you.
Why don't you read it again?
Have we time?
Yeah, I think so.
Right, okay. The dry twig. 3 deer stare hard, bobbing of white.
Thank you. And again, going back to the Festival of Hope, some thoughts from Catherine Buchanan, who's also contributed some haiku as well as some thoughts and prose. So, Catherine, are you there?
I have a feeling there was a message came up in the chat saying that she had to leave, but I could be wrong.
Right, I can't see the chat because I'm on the screen.
Yeah, Catherine Buchanan has left.
Left the building.
Left the building.
Right.
Yeah, it's sorry she had to leave. She had to go to another meeting.
All right. But yeah, we can see what she's written there and the photograph to accompany it. But again, from the Festival of Hope, Megan Hollandsworth also contributed some haiku.
And I'm here.
You're here, aye.
I'm here. I wasn't at the festival, and I'm thankful, very thankful to have these haiku in this issue. I was excited. I'm in a PhD, East-West Psychology PhD program at California Institute of Integral Studies, and I was excited to see the Eastern-Western wedding, I would call it. And what Martin said about the traditional haiku, I started writing haiku in 2018 when I was injured and really couldn't do much else. And I had been writing much longer poems for my project Extinction Witness, and started writing haiku, and it was so fun to work the words into the traditional 5-7-5 syllables. So that's what I play with as I'm writing these. The first was written in 2020 and was inspired by I was helping a friend tend her garden, and she taught me before she took off to travel. She taught me how to train the sweet peas up the frame that she had prepared for them. And it includes also a moment of a hard moment when there was light. The other thing I'll just say generally about haiku that I really appreciate is how it can be interpreted in many different ways. So, and poetry can also be interpreted in different ways by the same individual at different times. So I love that. I love that there's lots of meaning and meaning shifts. Clingers like sweet pea require support to climb. The way always lit. This one I've also dedicated to Thich Nhat Hanh, who has had the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, who has had a big influence on me through my lifetime. And the second was written after a big snow covered the gate out front of the house in April. And we'd had warm weather, so there were flowers already blooming. We're in Montana. And so it speaks to traditionally, or I don't know if it's traditionally, but at one point you wouldn't have had flowers in April in Montana. It would have been cold and winter up to any snow that came during that season. So this also speaks to the shift that we're in globally. And a colleague, I prepared this with an image for a course at CIIS, and a colleague commented that it brought to mind for her. I was thinking of the flowers themselves, but for her it brought up, because she was working on a project focused on youth and their worlds being threatened, their futures being threatened. April snow fools the first flower, a vision stolen at the gate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It says so much about the climate crisis in 17 syllables. Beautiful. Thank you. And next up, Sally Watson. I think that's once again a response to the Festival of Hope in the form of haiku.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Yeah, the boat, I'd never been at Galgale before, I'd heard of it, and I just loved it. It was such a great day. And seeing the boat and the kind of, the clade and the boats, shipbuilding, the whole history, etc. And I was born in Helensburgh, which is on the estuary, the Firth of Clyde. And there's a submarine base not far up the loch there. So the first one is submarine on loch, trailing sequined shafts of light, smiling monk watching. Because there's been, in the last few years, a Thai kind of, I don't know quite what, but a Thai Buddhist monk has taken over what used to be a Church of Scotland in Helensburgh. So you sometimes see people these Thai monks walking around in their robes, and it was very early one morning. And it was so incongruous. He had a huge long camera pointing at this submarine, and it was a beautiful summer day, nobody else around, him and me. The second is Holy Isle of Arran, which also is now part of a Tibetan Buddhist movement. And it was a place of Christian pilgrimage. St. Molash's Cave, ancient place of protection. Tara guarding rocks. Tara being a bodhisattva in Tibetan Buddhism. And the third, golden red light on water. Bathing world in peace and love. Continual unfolding. I just love that whole sunset over water facing west. So I'm a member of a Western Buddhist order. Yeah, so this issue of Stravaig, welding east and west, and the River Clyde really kind of spoke to me. Yeah. Thank you for organising the Galgale Festival of Hope.
Thanks, Sally. The monks have been a presence at Faslane for quite a long time. They always used to come on C&D demonstrations and so on. And that line, golden red light on water, it just immediately conjures up an image of their robes, which are sort of saffron and red.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you. And so, at last, but by no means least, is Norman Bissell, who's contributed a couple of things to this issue, including an essay picking up again on that theme of hope. So, Nori, do you want to just give us a quick insight into your essay?
Sure. Yeah, Dave, if you could just go down to page 75. I just want to read a little bit, The Death of Kenneth White. Just if you could bring that up a bit further up on the screen. That's fine there. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I just want to read a little bit of it to you and give you a flavour of it, and just pick up a couple of points. Really, I was focusing on the future of geopoetics and what that means for us. So the death of Kenneth White, which was August 2003, and that of Marie Claude in March this year, marked the end of an era for geopoetics. They have passed on the geopoetics baton to younger generations to run with it. I'm convinced that geopoetics is a big idea whose time has come, and there has never been a greater need for it. But how do we take geopoetics forward in the years to come? And I've suggested a number of ways we can take it forward. First of all, we deepen our understanding of geopoetics by reading more widely and applying that wider and deeper knowledge to what we say, write, and do. We read the collected works of Kenneth White and his other books like Coast to Coast, Interviews and Conversations, and The Tribal Dharma, but not uncritically. We read work by others like Gary Schneider, Rachel Carson, Ian McGilchrist, Mary Oliver, Alan Spence, Joanna Macy, David Beattie, who's here with us tonight, Rebecca Solnit, Dogen Zenji, and Charlotte Yoko Beck. Many of them have been Buddhists or influenced by Zen Buddhism. We carry out research into geopoetics at the Scottish Centre for Geopoetics on the Isle of Ling in Argyll, which is an unrivaled library of books, papers, and tapes related to it, and at the National Library of Scotland in Edinburgh, which holds the papers in English of Kenneth White and Tony McManus. I just want to jump forward now to point 7 there. We become more sensitive to the world of which we are part by using all our senses. We walk, we meditate, we take it all in, we make notes, we write, we paint, we make music. We apply geopoetics as a way of living in our daily lives. In her Expressing the Earth documentary film, Claire Penzak says, who's a dancer and movement specialist, she says of the poetry of Kenneth White, "For me, it offers a life way, I suppose different life ways. If we express ourselves differently, then maybe we act and dwell differently. It's not a single pathway towards some sort of hopeful future. Hopefully it is a pathway towards it, but it's not the only way." And if we could move down a page further on, I'll just stop there. Yep, that's great, Dave. In my experience, political activists can often become burnt out by their all-consuming activity. And I think that one of the things that geopoetics offers environmental activists and others is not only hope, but a vision of what life is and can be like, and a joyful practice of living which can sustain them. So I wanted to finish by echoing the words of Alan Spence, who wrote one of the essays in Stravaig in number 17. I'd like to echo his words, "We live in hope." And that's all I wanted to say about the essay. Hope you'll enjoy reading it.
Thanks, Norrie. We have got some time, a few minutes, if anybody wants to respond in any way to what they've heard or had a chance to read. Any questions that anybody would have for any of the writers or image makers, or in fact anything at all you'd like to say? I've been really struck by the very, very sharp powers of observation and ability to express that from all of our writers, and well done to the editors for picking that up. There seems to be definitely a kind of thread of water and rock running through this particular issue.
David, is there any chance you can scroll towards the end? The final image I think is lovely, but also that page there with the publications, because I think that's a really nice reminder of all the publications that there are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. and then, as I say, the final. I don't know if Nori wants to say anything about the publications.
Yeah, well, the two new ones there really are The Coast Opposite Humanity, an essay on the poetry of Robinson Jeffers by Kenneth White, and The Tribal Dharma, about the work of Gary Schneider, also by White. I mean, these are first editions published in 1975 by Unicorn, a bookshop in Wales, I believe. And you know, they're short, but they're full of things to follow up in them. So a tenner, they were selling for hundreds of pounds until we bought the job lot, what was left of them from someone's house clearing, basically. And Davis got them. So if you want copies, that's the place to go. We're now also doing Geopoetics, Place, Culture, World, instead of Grounding a World as the free book or booklet for when new members join. And we hope if you haven't joined the Scottish Centre that you'll consider doing so. There's if we go down a page, there's a membership form on there, and it's also on our website. And it's very straightforward now to join. You can do it online very easily now. One other wee point, just a plug. If you've enjoyed tonight, we're also having a festive celebration. I don't know if it's on the Friday the 5th of December at 6:30 p.m. So there'll be more poems and maybe some music, Dave, I hope. And there'll be a very good night with a dram or a glass of wine or something to cheer us up in this hopeful period, this festive season. So you'll see we've created an event on that, and there'll be another Geopoetics news coming out to encourage you to come to that. So it's a plug for that. If you enjoyed tonight, I think you'll also enjoy Friday the 5th of December.
And because it's online, you have to supply your own dram.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, thanks, Norrie. Just before I bring in
my copy, Norrie, very old and held together with sellotape.
I think you need a new copy, David. Yeah.
Imagine how many miles that's travelled.
Imagine, yeah, well done. Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of those, a lot of White's early books, including some in French next door, and we've also got Tony McManus's his archive really of books and papers and tapes, lots of tapes that were made of White reading in Edinburgh and elsewhere, and also the Open World Poetics Group tapes are also in the archive in the library in the Scottish Centre next door, the cottage next door here. So and folk have just arrived tonight, so I'm going through to welcome them now. As two artists have come for a week, and then Caroline and friends are coming also in December. So it's available for residencies, particularly for artists, but all writers, and it's basically who want to sample Ling and spend time reading some of these wonderful books that are available here. Yeah.
Thanks, Norrie. I'm going to bring in Andy McQueen. He's got a hand up there.
Hi all. Despite the name, I'm actually in Hampshire, in Basingstoke. It's a good Scottish name. I was born in Inverness, and I had a beautiful Scottish accent until moved down to London at the age of 4, when I lost it in about 3 weeks in the school playground, and it's never come back. I'm a researcher at the University of Exeter. My particular interest in this is an open question to anybody in the room, really. And that's reflecting on what we might call the darker side of particularly geology and geological activity. The beautiful world that we inhabit and that our poems and essays describe are only possible because we have a tectonically active planet and an awful lot of pain and suffering and death and so on occurs because of natural geological processes, the sort of geological equivalent of nature red in tooth and claw. I just wonder if anybody in the panel or writers or White himself, I don't know, has reflected on that sort of darker but necessary side of a geologically interesting and active planet.
Pat, I don't know if you want to come in there.
Only that we say that you do not want to be around when geology is happening. You know, and Andy, I'm a Exeter University graduate geologist, 40 years, and I've been involved with the Scottish Centre of Geopoetics, leading them on geological field trips, and we don't expect any geological events during them, but you know, you raise an interesting issue that
I did, and in fact, Patrick, we met at the RGS conference in London earlier this year. And
okay.
It was you that introduced me to the Scottish Centre and so on, and what's going on here. So, hi again. So this is a question that I was asking again in the room then, and the room then, which was pretty much full of geologists, didn't really have any, you know, contributions from there. But this is a wider forum here, people writing, thinking, and so on about the way that nature works. And I just sort of tossed it out there if anybody had thought particularly about it. Good to see you again, Patrick.
Yeah, no, and I apologise for not recognising you on Zoom.
Meg.
Andy, I'll just say that I live fairly close to Yellowstone National Park here. So, and if you haven't visited, or if anyone wants to visit and come see geology happening, to see it feels on the surface here in Montana, and most of the park is in Wyoming. But in any case, there's an invitation to visit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a powerful question, an important question.
And perhaps particularly in Scotland, because Scotland itself is so geologically interesting. Hutton's unconformity for Patrick, you know, the history of geology and so on.
Yeah, well, this is a big issue next year because it's Hutton's tercentenary, and there is a lot of overlap between the things that are planned around that, events around Sicker Point, around a new visitor notice board and shelter at the top of Sicker Point, and also trying to raise money to produce a walkway down to Sicker Point. So there's a lot of activity. You'll hear a lot about Hutton, hopefully, from the Scottish Geological Trust, the Edinburgh Geological Society. We're talking about doing arts events, building on the Earth Canvas event here. So there's quite a lot of activity going on around that. But
I'll keep an eye open for those.
Yeah, you're in Exeter. You're not in Edinburgh, but
I'm actually in Basingstoke. I'm in Hampshire, but
right.
But I might as well, as far as Edinburgh is concerned. But it was just talking to this wider forum of people who think and think geopoetically about the planet and the geology behind it, and all the biodiversity and so on, which is reflecting what we've been some of what we've been hearing. And I haven't read the journal yet, but I will be. Reflects the geology that it's seated on. We wouldn't have biodiversity without geodiversity, as I keep, you know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, and Exeter, of course, Exeter was where Tim Lenton is of Gaia.
Yeah.
So all those things hang together. But it's just so anybody else in the panel or in the room who has got any thoughts on that, I'd be interested to hear.
Yeah, Elizabeth, you got your hand up there.
Someone else.
Is your hand hovering over the mute button? It needs to unmute yourself.
Well, while she's doing that, can I just say, Dave, that we started off the film, raising funding for the film in late 2022 through Crowdfunder UK, and I think the Scottish Geology Trust is fundraising at the moment for the work to be done at Sicker Point. the interpretation there. It's trying to raise £75,000, and there's only about 10 days left to contribute. So so we plug for that. If you want to contribute to their crowdfunder, now's the time to do it before it closes in about 10 days' time.
Right, noted.
Yeah.
I would also give a plug for the music of Olivia Rafferty. She's just produced a whole album on music around geology, and she's moving up to this part of the world, up to Scotland. And she's somebody that we should try and get onto a musical event around the Scottish Centre of Geopoetics. So a plug for Olivia Rafferty. You can find, she has a track called Earthquake Room, which was played at Earth Canvas. So, and she's a young person that definitely would be a geopoetic interest, I think, coming forward.
Right. Well,
So just at the risk of monopolising the floor for 10 seconds longer, sorry, Mr. Chairman, the scholars of White, Kenneth White scholars, are presumably Norrin Bissell and others who are familiar with White's, I'd be interested, maybe not now, but communicate offline, if there's anything specific within White's thinking about that darker side of the geological.
I haven't come across it, Andy. He was a complex character. He was interested in using that analogy of you know, centered complex as Arran and Brittany, but he never, I'm not sure. No, I don't think so, Andy.
Thank you. Okay.
It's maybe a subject for future discussion. Yeah.
Sorry, Elizabeth's been trying to come in for ages, so
I've managed to unmute myself. This is just a little portion of a piece that I wrote about the building blocks of Earth. Stones tell so much about our history, way of life, our existence on this earth. Will the concrete, metal, and glass structures tell us much about modern generations? As they crumble and fall, will they leave twisted, metallic, sculptural forms? What will they say to future generations about their demise? A different legacy? A different art form? Will they speak to them the way stones have spoken for millennia? Artwork, graffiti depicting family, community, battles, culture, and nature. Some carved, some painted, have withstood nature's challenges. They share their stories with us.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That's a very good point that you make. That geology gives us the story of the Earth, and what is. It raises questions about sort of digital legacy and all of that. So thank you. We're almost out of time. Time for maybe one or two more points if anybody's got anything else that they want to contribute. If not, I will draw the meeting to a close. As Norrie says, if you want copies of The Coast Opposite Humanity and Tribal Dharma, I have a box full of them, and they are real rare heirlooms. If anybody wants to order them, then let me know, and I'll get them posted out to you. No more? Any closing remarks from you, Norrie?
Just to say to Andy that might make a very good subject for a future conversation on Zoom about. We've had ones before about geology and geopoetics, but you've raised an interesting issue there, and it's something that maybe Pat and I can talk a bit more about how that might go. So thanks for coming in on that point.
Yeah, do. I think Pat should have my contact details from our previous correspondence. Pat, or if not, I'm happy for them to for the registration details from today. Who was holding those, share it right that way to the admin.
Yeah, I've just sent you my email address again, Andy. I'll have to. Yeah.
Well, on email or
in the chat. In the chat.
Okay, I'll pick that up.
Personal
okay,
chat.
Thank you. And I'd just like to say a huge thanks to everybody who's read this evening. Of course, thanks to everybody who contributed and to the Stravaig editors. As I said at the beginning, it's really good just to animate the words on the page with the spoken word. And so thanks to all of you for your contribution.